a very warm welcome to everyone. I am Shrija Agrawal, and it's my sheer pleasure and privilege to welcome you to our special discussion series on decoding the future of artificial intelligence or AI in the COVID age. What we are going to discuss today is of huge importance. For years, artificial intelligence seemed on the cusp of becoming the next big thing in technology. But the reality never matched the hype. Now, the changes caused by the COVID 19 pandemic may mean AI's moment is finally upon us. Over the last couple of months, companies had to reject their operations for a remote working world. With fewer people in the office, these changes will certainly help companies to be more nimble and reliable. But the centralization of more corporate data in the cloud is also precisely what's needed for companies to develop the AI capabilities, for better predictive algorithm, to increase robotic automation, something which we have been hearing about for so long. If business leaders invest aggressively in the right direction, it could be a pivotal moment for the future of innovation. In fact, AI has been labeled the new electricity. About a century ago, the way we started to electrify the world through the electrical revolution, artificial intelligence or AI is poised to start an equally large transformation on many industries. Fintech, healthcare, self-driving car industry, to name a few, are some of the sectors which are seeing significant impact. Our chat today is of particularly importance. We will discuss from two experts and perhaps the two most relevant experts, one a practitioner and one a solution provider trying to decode the future of AI in the COVID age. Please help me welcome Sourabh Gupta, the founder and CEO of Vernacular AI, an AI-first SaaS business that automates enterprise contact centers through the voice AI platform Viva. About 4 years ago, his passion for entrepreneurship and vision for a voice first future led him to start Vernacular AI right after graduating from IIT Roorkee. Also, please help me welcome Ratan Kumar Kesh, Executive Vice President and Head Retail Operations and Services, Axis Bank. In the current role, a veteran like Ratan handles entire retail operations and service capabilities of Axis Bank, which includes branch operations, currency chest, liabilities, cards, assets, clearing and settlement, digital ops, NRI ops, inbound channels, and service recovery. Gentlemen, thank you for your time and energy to this. It would be a good idea to familiarize our audiences with AI in banking and what it really means. Ratan, I want to sort of come down to you. Give us some sort of sense, just to sort of set up the context of what really AI potentially means in the banking and the financial services sector. What really has been its inflection point till now, and how has the journey really been for AI?
Hey, Srija, thanks for having us. Wish you and your viewers very happy Dasera and best wishes for Vijaya Dasami. Um, Indeed, the adoption of digital technology has been on the rise over the last few years. More specifically, thanks to the very supportive ecosystem created by the Government of India through JAM and India Stack, we in the financial services industry have far greater capabilities to develop solutions which are benefiting consumers and thus our businesses. There is a very congenial environment for a mass flourishing of innovation, and a large number of smart and cool solutions are being created by the fintech community and the startup world of Saurabhs of the kind. We have actually been building the voice bot already. Let me introduce what the voice bot means to the consumers. Today, in a traditional contact center, when you call up a call center, you will have to go through a very long IVR tree. Press 1 for English, press 2 for Hindi, and then it says press 1 for savings, press 2 for current account, then it says press 1 for debit card, press 2 for Forex, etc. And then finally you say that I need a green pin for my debit card. In a voice bot scenario, essentially you actually eliminate all that IVR tree and your traversal time reduces significantly. You simply as a consumer, you say, I want a green pin for my debit card. Bot has the capability to understand that and then really execute it and help you to get the green pin for your debit card. That's a power of bot. It really, really brings that superior convenience to the customer and therefore delight consumers, and therefore banking adoption rate goes up, uh, which benefits custom banks like us.
Thank you so much for that, Ratan, for laying this out so beautifully for us in terms of the context setting for what AI really means in the banking sector and specifically for Axis Bank, and the very fact that you're building a voice bot for some time now. I come down to you now, Saurabh. You are really the solution provider here and creating these fascinating products. I want to understand from you, if you were to sort of do some context setting for us on the introduction of AI for the banking and financial services space at large, what that really means for a common person, how would you demystify that for us?
Sure. Thanks, Shrija, for having me here. See, I think we need to take a step back and really see what users need in this world today, right? A user basically needs two things. One is easy access, and two, quick query resolution. And we're talking about that across all channels for an enterprise, right? What I mean by that is if you have a website, a user is expecting you to have a contact us option, which is very easy to find. If you have an app and your users are multilingual, they are expecting it to be in different languages. And similarly for call centers, when a user is calling a call center, user is expecting quick query resolution. And what Ratan just mentioned is the exact experience that users have pre-voice bot. A user is spending anywhere between 60 to 70 seconds on an IVR, pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, trying to find that one button which can get them connected to a human agent. And after that, it could take anywhere from 30 seconds to 30 minutes, sometimes even more, to get connected to an agent whom, by the way, might or might not answer the query that you called for in the first place. So this is not a good customer experience. And this is where we feel that contact center automation and voice AI can have significant impact. Voice bots that we are building are not just automating IVR, but also large part of what humans do on call centers today. So there is a significant cost reduction for the enterprises and incredible increase in customer satisfaction for the end users.
Saurabh, thanks for explaining that to us, the primary functions of voice bots and what it means, for the banking sector. But then I come to you now. You're really from a practitioner's perspective. One would want to understand that, how has a traditional Indian customer really adapted to the AI-enabled, multilingual customer query resolving voice bots?
Yeah, Srija, as I mentioned sometime few minutes back, that we have actually been building the voice bot already in anticipation of delivering a superior customer experience and of course to bring more efficiency. But honestly, our developmental efforts picked up pretty much of a speed and a pace due to onset of COVID. Uh, Look, the fact is that during lockdown and restrictions, we also had difficulties in getting our agents to come to the offices to take calls. So at one end, we were creating capabilities for taking calls from the home, and we were creating work from home agents. And it's a fairly complex technology, I must say, to transfer the customer call into the residence of the agents, creating a recording facility with suitable endpoint security is fairly a complex game, which we did in the end, of course. We were the first bank to have created 500,000 and 1,500 work from agents to support customers. But our bot actually came pretty handy in really handling the transition in three broad dimensions. At one end, we were seeing that the call volumes have started growing. We were adding more work from home agents, and also the bot were getting more matured from somewhere around 50-55% accuracy level to almost 90% accuracy level. Today, actually, we are back to pre-COVID volume of calls, and in some areas like loan moratorium, the call volume has actually gone up. But thanks to bot, we are able to handle all of these while delivering superior CX. Let me tell you the number of calls that you've handled since August that you launched this voice bot. We handle almost 5.9 million calls. 40% of these calls are coming in English. Around 50% are Hindi and English. And we are actually developing more solutions to add more and more Indian languages. So while at one end we have been extremely, I would say, successful in using the bot and handling multilingual scenarios of customer queries. But I must also say the multilingual solutions are still pretty nascent in the country and yet to be developed, considering the dynamics and the diversified linguistic spread that as a country India operates. So I think startups of the kind Vernacular.ai and many other tech companies would need to develop not just language, but they need to go into a dialect level development to really take it to a completely new level and fine tune the solution. That's how I feel.
That was really sort of helpful. Uh, so there has been a very positive impact, perhaps transformational, in terms of what you have seen in your business at Access, Ratan. You have been able to add more agents, customer service has been excellent. So I want to really understand that, do you think that, have the customers started preferring interactions with AI voice bots over human physical interactions amid the day and age of social distancing? Do you think that really is happening? And I'll come down to Saurabh now as to what is his perspective on this phenomenon.
Sure. Shrija, I think context here is very important. Right? We just talked about the challenges with traditional IVR and wait times when we are trying to get connected to a human. So there are definite use cases where it makes a lot of sense for users to talk to the bot directly, and they'll be more happy than not. Instead of waiting on for a minute on IVR, another couple of minutes to talk to an agent, you would of course want to talk to a bot which can answer your query in 15-20 seconds. At the same time, there are use cases where human touch is incredibly important. These are the use cases where we are talking about emotions, empathy. Let's say someone is calling a bank and there's a dispute or there's a fraudulent transaction they want to report. They don't want to talk to a bot at that point of time. At the same time, there could be some kind of complaints they want to register, some kind of feedback they want to give. So bots need to be designed in a way that use cases are taken care of. For easy use cases which are redundant, customers are spending 3-4 minutes, the query can be answered in 15 seconds, should have a bot. If it's a complex use case, have a human doing that. And when we are making this division in the use cases and where the bot should work and where it should not, we have seen incredible adoption from people. In fact, in most of the use cases, we are seeing better CSAT scores than we were seeing without agents on IVR. In fact, would love to hear from Ratan what are the numbers they are seeing in Axis Bank.
Ratan, any thoughts here? Saurabh's point is that, for use cases which are very simple and perhaps it can do away with human intervention, the wonders of AI have been very significant. At the same time, I think he has been very candid to also mention the very fact that perhaps in the more complex use cases, human intervention is required. One would want to hear from you that what really are you seeing, if you have some data to perhaps help us demystify both the use cases better?
Look, I think Saurabh is absolutely right. So we have launched the bot for almost 16 odd top services with high volume but low complexity. And we are getting to handle almost 60,000 calls per day with 90 plus percentage of accuracy. At the next 27 that we are launching, we'll handle only 15,000 volumes per day, but those are fairly complex one, including that of ability to handle conflict, objections, etc., which is where some of the very finer nuances of technology will come into the picture, which means not just the fact that bot is able to bring in the knowledge, but it should have an ability to understand the sentiment, the empathy. For example, the sort of the point that he mentioned, a customer would call up to say that I lost my debit card. Now, at that moment, how do you really handle the particular customer's anxiety? It cannot be handled by the bot at this point in time. But the good news about bot is that because it is a bot and it has an ability to learn from both success and failure, I think it runs pretty rapidly. So in our case, from a 63% accuracy level, we moved to 90 plus in just about 2 to 3 weeks. And that's the power of a bot. If you can have a good execution capability with a good tech partner, I think you actually enrich the bot learning and use it far more effectively. That's what we are seeing. So clearly also the customer experience score for people who are getting handled the more simpler queries, their experience are far better because they don't have to wait in the queue. They don't need to go through a long IVR traversal tree, and therefore they're getting the response pretty quickly and go back happy. And they are now going back and giving us a better CSAT scores.
So basically, the consensus seems to be building that for simple queries, perhaps the experience dealing with AI is far more superior than a human intervention, and perhaps technology needs to suit itself better for resolving more complex queries, perhaps handling the crisis better, where human intervention is really required. So I want to understand that we spoke about the advantages, the opportunity landscape, and the real use cases and viability for AI in the banking and the financial services space. But I want to understand from you, Ratan, for instance, you represent a large bank. You are a pan-India phenomenon. So I want to understand that is this acceptability of AI only relevant to the metros? How deep has the penetration or acceptance really been in the tier 2 and tier 3 for that matter? Give us some color and sense there. After you, I'll come down to Saurabh then.
Look, obviously, we've got 4,500 branches across every nook and corner of the country. And we have been maintaining social distancing due to COVID. The walk-in in the branches have reduced. If the branches, the customers need something, they have the facilities of doing it through internet banking and mobile banking. We are seeing significant growth of transaction and activities in the IB and MB platforms. But we are also seeing significant growth, which is coming back to the call center volume. Roughly around 50% of the calls that you get in our call center come from non-metro cities. And as I said that we are handling roughly around 60,000 calls per day, the ratio didn't change. We continue to get 50% call from the non-metro cities, which means the bot is being adopted pretty seamlessly by both metro and the non-metro customers. That's at one level. And there is a valid reason around it. The fact is that in India, we've got almost 687 million internet users, 400 million social media users. We are a quite tech-savvy country. And for example, taking an example of my father-in-law, 75-year-old man, he is almost spending 8 to 10 hours on Facebook, and he's got a view on every political and global economy and political landscape. Therefore, we are a country, we've got pretty tech-savvy. The solution that we are talking about here is fairly simple. So I don't think the adoption is a problem. But I think the power of this bot will be a lot more if we can maintain the simplicity of the solution as we move up the value chain and solve some of the more complex queries and objections. I think we've got to keep it as simple as it is today so that the customer adoption remains both in metro and the non-metro cities.
Saurabh, we just heard from your very valued, partner who has been a big endorser for your service also, and he has some very significant points to make. I want to understand he made a very important point and actually gave us an example of his father-in-law saying that digitization in India is deep, it is prevalent in tier 2, tier 3 cities, it's no more a metro phenomenon. Would you have some data or perhaps factoids to share with us on how relevant the entire voice bot phenomenon is perhaps in more Bharat versus India equation?
Definitely. I think Ratan is touching upon a lot of interesting points. We talked about dialects, accents. India is a land of 22 official languages, 730 plus dialects. And a bank like Axis Bank is probably catering to most of these, audience, and these people are going to call. So the solution should be able to understand the nuances in the language, the dialects, etc. And what we've seen in data again and again across our deployments is the data says, if you talk to people, so there are two aspects to it, right? So let's talk about both. One aspect is looking at it from a very logical angle. And the logical angle says is, if someone is calling an enterprise from Bihar and talking in Bhojpuri, they would prefer to be talked back in Bhojpuri. That's as logical as it gets. But today what is happening with enterprises is the solutions are only able to provide support in English, Hindi, and maybe a couple of other languages, not at a dialect level. So whenever we are going at a dialect level, whenever we are going at a deeper language level, we are seeing that there is a consistent increase in conversion numbers or decrease in disengagement numbers. Increase in conversion number is easier to understand. It's basically if we take 100 calls, how many calls are we able to conclude successfully? We are seeing conversion numbers increase by 6 to 8% every time we are talking in a regional language. right? And disengagement is a number wherein the first time a user is talking to a bot, are they giving a response back or not? We have seen 20% reduction in disengagement numbers if you're talking in regional language, dialects, and accents, right? So it's only logical, and logic is being backed by data, that Bharat is the way forward for this technology.
So we just heard from Saurabh, and there's sort of huge affirmation coming there that Bharat is the way forward. I want to understand from you, Ratan, that you think that the AI customer response system actually does justice to the range of questions asked by the customer. We're talking about multiple languages and dialects here. What would be your 2 or 3 key pieces of recommendation to Saurabh as he's building on the product roadmap for Vernacular AI, the voice bot?
See, more than really giving recommendation to Saurabh on his product, I think I would rather spend a bit more time on really seeing what we are doing to make it a far more comprehensive solution. Let me articulate what I mean. So today we've got almost 45% of the calls which are getting routed through the bot using a certain logic. If bot is able to answer, pretty fine. If bot is unable to answer, it actually hands over to an agent who is far more knowledgeable, so to say, today, and understands the technical nuances of handling the customer calls. So there is a seamless movement from the humanoid to a human. And I think that's the power of the tool, but it doesn't stop there. Truth is that as we progress in the value chain, we will add more and more complex solution. But irrespective of whatever we do, we will continue to have certain number of calls, and a fairly large number of that would need an agent, an expert banker to handle. Therefore, our view is that bot is not the be all and the end all solution. It is going to deliver convenience and experience, but what we are doing is something fairly, I would say, more comprehensive on top of the bot. We are building what we call it as a real-time speech analytics, which is actually listening to the conversation and gauging if the call is going on well. If the call is not going on well between the bot and the customer, it will instantly transfer the call to an agent, and it will also bring the context of the call along with certain FAQ from the knowledge portal, which is Avigyan. So the day we launched the bot is the day we launched our new comprehensive knowledge portal of Avigyan. So in simple terms, it means the simple queries are being answered by the bot, and then a real-time speech analytics is going to listen to the calls. If it is going well, great. If not, transfer it to an agent with the context and certain FAQ so that the human being is able to handle it. Now what we are doing is that we are actually creating a larger layer of platform of not just of a voice bot, but email bot, chat bot, social media bot. And the core is to actually integrate all of these with a very powerful knowledge portal solution. Now, therefore, if I have to really give some advice to Saurabh, the ability of companies like Vernacular to integrate with the several other solutions that we are building is going to be key. Without that, the solution will remain as a very standalone solution and not a very comprehensive bank offering which we will offer to our customers.
Saurabh, your response to that? He just laid out as to sort of how are they thinking about, building upon the voice bot as a layer. And he very clearly sort of articulated that voice bot in itself cannot be the end all and the be all. They're talking about speech analytics. They're talking about the fact that the transition from a humanoid to the human has to be seamless. What is your response, and perhaps what is Ratan mentioned and recommended to you?
Yeah, I mean, Ratan is just being kind. I think he just laid out our product roadmap for sure. So we're already working on a lot of these things, and great to hear Ratan speak about them as well. And hopefully, we are able to, work on a few more things like this with Ratan and with Axis Bank team, and deploy those solutions. So, of course, I completely agree that VoiceBot is not uh, the ultimate solution, right? A lot of systems have to coexist together to provide the best experience for the users. We always have to think from the user point of view and then take decisions. So VoiceBot only makes sense for certain use cases. It doesn't make sense for others. And that is how we should be looking at VoiceBot. I think another very valid point touched by Ratan is the next in terms of future of product like VoiceBot is going to be ability to understand what is happening at other systems. Let's say there is an email bot, let's say there is a chat bot, let's say there is some other system that the enterprise has. VoiceBot needs to be able to understand what is happening with all those systems, because the same user is engaging with all these channels as well, and able to understand that and provide a great omni-channel experience to the user. So all these points that are being talked about, I think I'll probably talk to my team about it tomorrow. I'm sure you're already doing this stuff, but this is just validation of how we are also thinking about this.
We just heard from Ratan and you as on the product roadmap and how you were sort of building it out, and that was meaningful. I want to understand and do a little deeper on the multilingual aspect. That how has that really helped in increasing customer satisfaction and customer engagement? I think you gave an example about customers hailing from Bihar and speaking Bhojpuri, but if you look at Bihar itself, it has many dialects and sub languages. You have Bhojpuri, you have Maithili, you have Maghi, for instance. So can the voice bot really tackle some of those finer complexities of language?
Sure. So, Shrija, we'll have to appreciate the complexity of the problem, first of all, that we are talking about in voice, which is multi-dimensional. Uh, and what I mean by that is, let me draw a comparison of that with, let's say, a text-based chatbot. When you are typing, there are 2 points primarily, right? When you are typing, your thought is very structured. You know what you are writing. You don't make mistakes, or you can at least press that backspace key on your keyboard and rectify what the mistake is. And the other is a text-based bot is basically an added element on a website or a mobile app. So if it doesn't work, you can always look at the app, you can look at the website, or you can call a call center. Now the problem is with a voice bot deployed on the call center. If we compare that, there are 3 main challenges. First challenge is the way people speak is not structured. You tend to make a lot of mistakes. In one of our deployments with a restaurant chain in India, we ask people how many people are coming for the booking. And typically we hear things like 4 people are coming. No, 5 people are coming. That's how people talk in a sentence. So there are 2 numbers spoken in a sentence. How do you understand that? A lot of words are similar sounding. Sometimes we say 4. 4 and 4 can, there's a whole long list of these words I can share. This is the first complexity. Second complexity is what you just talked about, which is sheer number of dialects and accents. Now, in this, there are 2 ways to look at it. One is you need to understand all the dialects and accents, and the other is you need to be able to respond to people back in these dialects and accents. And both these problem statements are very hard, deep technical problems to solve, primarily because of lack of data. How do you find data in, let's say you talked about Maithili as a language in Bihar, how do you find audio data for that to train your engines and give a response? The third problem with voice bots is it's the only channel. If a voice bot doesn't work, you don't have an option. So voice bot has to work. The answer needs to be given, and it has to be the right answer. So the voice bot complexities, dialects, accents definitely are, very critical, but also overall, the complexity is multifold. And as a company, what we are doing is constantly innovating on all these 3 challenges to ensure that the experience for the end user is exceptional.
Yeah, I think Saurabh, you make very powerful point in terms of really why we believe that it is quite complex, yet it continues to deliver a superior customer experience and convenience. The fact that one doesn't need to wait on the call queue, fact that you don't really force the customer to talk English, and customer has a flexibility to talk Hindi as well as English. I think it's fairly simpler, but uh, the technology has to really evolve significantly to be able to understand what exactly the customer means, because the banking language is like we say AMB, which is actually annual monthly balance charges. Customer will not say AMB, customer comes back and say, मेरा account में charge लगा दिया. Yeah, customer would say ATM से पैसा नहीं निकला. The ability of the bot to understand that customer is talking about a failed ATM transaction and go back and give a solution is something that has to really evolve a lot more significantly to be able to deliver a superior CX. But that's where the whole idea of humanoid to human seamless movement works pretty well. And our view, therefore, is that it is not a substitute of a human being. The bot as the humanoid and the human being are expected to work side by side, and therefore together they will deliver a superior CX in addition to delivering the cost saving benefits. And that's how we view this whole bot solution as.
Okay, that was sort of meaningful, Ratan and Saurabh, both of you, for so candidly laying out the complexities that we have to deal with, you know, with the multilingual and the kind of system that we have in India with so many dialects and language and sub languages. Thanks for laying that out. I want to understand from you, Ratan. We, I think, spent quite a lot of time on understanding voice bots, the opportunities, the challenges, the landscape, the fact that it's not necessarily a metro phenomenon. Bharat is the way forward was a very sounding affirmation coming in the show. I want to understand that if I was to decode and understand from you that what really is the future of banking and where is artificial intelligence or AI in that narrative, what would that really be?
So, Srija, my view is that the digitization and the digital evolution will continue, and the pace at which it is really changing, that pace will also um continue to remain, and probably it will keep more pace as time progresses. AI is expected to carve a new landscape in our vision for delivering superior customer engagement. For example, today we are not using just for the voice bot, but we are using AI for customer query handling on the email, chat, social media. We are using AI for account opening. So to open a simple account, traditionally you would fill in a piece of paper and then you go to the branch, then you give a check, and number of scrutiny will be done. Today, AI has the capability to do all the scrutiny by pinging your various databases like Aadhaar or a PAN or a voter list and all of those databases, and really set up an account in a few minutes. Uh, AI is being used today for trade processes. AI is being used for check clearing, loan sanction, salary processing, and the whole ecosystem is giving us a lot more accuracy to use AI. And therefore, I believe that AI is going to really take the center stage of the whole digital evolution and take the banking and financial sector, the efficiency of the banking and financial sector, and the customer experience to a completely new level. The truth is that it is very difficult to get expert bankers with diversified knowledge who has got understanding of KYC, the trade, the scrutiny, the loan process, the credit card, and all of that. There are very few bankers who will be having all of those knowledge. But with AI, you can actually convert some of these expert knowledge into a more algorithm and then really ensure consistency in delivering, and therefore AI will play a role. But AI is on its own will not be able to replace the power of human being, as we discussed a few minutes back. It would still need to have the ability to understand sentiment, the ability to have the intent or the concept understanding, ability to really understand sarcasm. Sometimes the customer will say, "Oh, brilliant, your system never works." Now, bot has to really understand, oh, brilliant is not a good thing. It is actually the answer, the question is being asked about or a criticism about your system. So I think technology has to evolve a lot more to really deliver some of these more complex nuances. It should have the ability to entity extraction capability. For example, cards, you say, is it Forex, credit or debit cards? It should have an ability to kind of understand the anomalies in any conversation or any threshold. So some of these will kind of evolve as we progress in the financial and banking sector, and that will help in really improving and ameliorating the service standards of financial sector using the AI.
Uh, so, Saurabh, we just heard from Ratan, and he spoke about the fact that AI really sits at the heart of the conversation on future of banking. Whenever we talk about that narrative, I want to understand from you that what are you hearing from the banking industry at large in terms of the transformational effects of AI? Give us some color and sense there.
Sure. So Shrija, I think we started talking to Axis Bank about voice bot even pre-COVID. So AI was already something people were talking about. Digital transformation was already something people were talking about. But the mind share going into that was probably 10-15%. Uh, because a lot of other things like physical banking, branch banking and all were also taking a significant effort from enterprises. COVID has flipped that. After COVID, every enterprise, every bank is focused on digital transformation. So that 10-15% has moved to 80-85%. So how we look at it, AI was inevitable, transformation was going to happen, all of it has just accelerated. Banks that were going to talk to us maybe next year are talking to us today. The bots that we're going to deploy next year we never imagined, but we are having those conversations today. So we are definitely seeing a very positive shift in terms of how enterprises are thinking about this. And obviously there are all sorts of reports out there which talk about how AI itself is going to add maybe $1 trillion to our economy in the next 10 to 15 years. And great to see that it's accelerating. We might just break all the records in terms of when we thought we'll get there. Probably we'll be able to see in 5 years what we were expecting in 10.
Thanks, Saurabh, for that meaningful insight. Ratan, I come to you now. We just heard from Saurabh, and he spoke about the fact that, of course, there has been a huge acceleration post COVID on this entire digital transformation and AI usage. I can tell you for sure that digital transformation, the two words which were absolutely hollow before the entire COVID scenario, people have actually gotten to understand its real meaning post COVID. I want to understand from you, it's a flip question really, is that banks and organizations which are overlooking AI, the use of AI, do you think will add be the negative advantage? And do you also think the fact that we should not overdo the use of AI too? I mean, it's a fine balancing act. What really is your sense there?
See, the fact is that AI delivers such superior benefits to the organizations, both in terms of customer experience as well as in terms of bringing efficiency. In fact, it helps in a better governance and controls. There is no reason why a pragmatic organization would not adopt AI in a big way. For example, we are today talking about roughly around 1,000 bots by end of this financial year. And these 1,000 bots will be handling multiple intervention across different processes of the bank and continue to deliver experience, governance, controls, cost saving, productivity, efficiency, etc. The truth is that what Saurabh mentioned, that COVID has actually um, forced a lot of organizations to quickly adopt and walk that path of really adopting AI. And in some sort of peer pressure, many companies would have gone into saying, we do AI sort of stuff. And therefore, I think our view is that it is not about that we also do AI and we also have AI bots in the organization. It has to be part of an integral strategy with the organization strategy, the comprehensive digital strategy of the bank, and within that, how some of these strategies actually fit in terms of fulfilling the requirement. So, for example, today we know that in India has got 400 million social media users. How do you really ensure that your bot has an ability to initiate a transaction from the social media? That means we need to have a social media bot with ability of natural language processing capability. Because on social media, we are used to using not a very standard English, but often they use which are very, very simple natural English. So the strategy has to therefore adopt saying, what is your core strategy? So we have got a, a, a theme within our organization that we got to be number one, number two in each segment of our businesses and each segment of our key pillars of service delivery and business delivery. Therefore, each of these areas, bot is going to come as one of the enabling strategy, not the only strategy. So I think my simple answer to your question is that yes, the companies will not adopt to AI, will actually find themselves into a little bit of a difficult spot. Having said that, just adopting AI is not going to help unless you are going to be, it is part of your overall organization strategy, digital strategy, and therefore it is quite an integrated platform.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point being made by Ratan. But I just want to rephrase that for people to understand. AI is a solution, so we cannot have an AI first approach. From an enterprise point of view, we have to start from problems. Right, like Ratan mentioned, social media transaction. That's where we start from. We don't start from a bot for social media, right? So we start from problem, then we try to find the solution. Enterprises could get swayed away, just because it's AI, and we want to be AI first, so let's try to use all the cool AI technologies out there. But they need to be very clear about the problems before looking at solutions.
That's a good piece of caution coming in here from the both from the practitioner and from the solution provider. I like the way Ratan laid out the fact that the AI itself can't be the BN and the solution itself. It has to be part of an organization strategy, how you're thinking about digitization, and also sort of love the fact the way sort of Saurabh brought out the fact that it has to begin with the problem. It can't be an obsession to just be an AI first organization. Now, I want to understand from both of you gentlemen, and particularly to you, Saurabh, first, and then cut down to Ratan, is that, how are you focusing on challenges or some of the products that you are battling with in vernacular AI? So what really is the culture of innovation at your organization then? We know from Jeff Bezos at Amazon that, we have to listen to our customers. It is our prerogative to surprise them. It is not their headache to tell us. So what the kind of things that you are building out? Give us some sense and clarity there.
Sure. So Shrija, we talked about the challenges in building this kind of a product. So uh, it's one of the more complex products out there. It's not a straightforward, you build an app or you build a website and it's ready to go. So there's significant effort that goes into it. And the other complexity is we are a B2B2C organization. So while Bezos could say that he wants to focus on customers, for us it starts from users. So we have to focus on customers first, because if they are happy, customers are happy. So for us, it is user obsession, customer obsession, and pure technology innovation. So it's a three-dimensional strategy that we have. If I talk about each of them from the perspective of user obsession, it starts with measuring the right things. So we put significant amount of effort and investment in measuring what the experience is for the users and building the right processes to ensure those numbers keep increasing over time. Second is customer obsession. Fortunately, we have customers like Axis Bank and Ratan who lay down the product roadmap for us. But on a more serious note, what we do is, in a company, you might be part of sales team, might be part of marketing team, product team, or any other team. If you are talking to customers or you hear any customer talking about challenges they are facing around what we are building, we maintain a repository of all these ideas, features, challenges, problems, etc. And we are looking at them every month, every quarter, and we are picking things up from them. That in our mind is customer obsession. At every month or every quarterly planning level, we see how much of planning is done from the ideas that customers have given us, and that numbers need to be significantly high, for us to be telling ourselves that we are customer obsessed. And the third part is pure technology innovation. So today we are the most leading voice AI company in the country, and we are working at the cutting edge of where technology is. And cutting edge is building technology like text to speech engine in Bhojpuri, which no one is even thinking about in the whole world. So at any point of time, we are thinking, again, monthly, quarterly planning, we are thinking what's next? What's the next bet we can take to push the boundaries of technology? And that's not it. You push boundaries of technology, you build certain features. How do you bring that, to your user obsession? If you're building technology that needs to impact your users, the customer satisfaction needs to go up, conversion number needs to go up. If users are getting impacted, customers will get happier. So this is, three-pronged strategy that we have for innovation in Vernacular.
Sure. You also sort of spoke a little about the fact that, hyper personalization, if I remember. You mentioned the fact that, you're trying to challenge the multilingual aspect a little better. Tell us a little more about that. How are you sort of dwelling deep on that? Yeah.
Sure. So as of today, you talk to bots today. We have Siris and Google Assistants of the world in every house. The responses that we get are very canned and robotic. You talking to Alexa, me talking to Alexa, we are both getting similar responses. So there's no personalization happening. And personalization is at two levels. One is just knowing who you are from past data. Let's say at an enterprise level, it might mean, you are a customer of Axis Bank, so you probably know that you've transacted 5 times with us, you have XYZ balance in your savings account, etc. So I can personalize the conversation. But the other element is the cultural element or the Bharat element that we talk about. What language are you talking in? What dialect are you speaking in? What accent do you have? So our platform is able to understand 10 to 15 parameters of a user from the audio. Uh, so listening to your audio, we can figure out your gender, age, dialect, accent, sentiment, and a few other things. And using all this information, we create hyper-personalized responses. One is we of course use pure data science or past data of the customer, but we also, if you are 70-year-old plus, we talk to you slowly. If you are someone living in Bihar, we talk to you in Bhojpuri. If you are someone living in Mumbai, you are a teenager, we use a lot of fancy words that you use in day-to-day dictionary. So this is really the bet that we have taken, which is the only logical way forward for voice technology.
We just heard from Saurabh where he mentioned and spoke about, how he's thinking about innovating and the innovation culture in his organization. He spoke about the fact that they maintain a repository of customer complaints or customer challenges, and they escalate that feedback back into the product. I want to understand that what essentially is the digitization roadmap for Axis Bank, and where does AI feature there? We're talking about speech analytics, natural language processing. Give us a perhaps clear picture of how integral digitization is for Axis Bank.
So, as I mentioned to you, we are a very strong, solid company with a significantly large number of extremely sweet spots and capabilities that the bank has built over a period of time. Uh, while at one end we have got some very strong expertise in particular areas, our endeavor is that we will continue to be a learning focused organization, and we will learn from others wherever we are not being the best. But at the same time, using the power of digital and power of technology, we will create some solutions in every segment of the bank, which will be the best in the world, and it will be something that others will learn from us. So 3 years down the line, we would have developed certain solutions in every segment of the bank, which will be the best in class, which others will really aspire to emulate. And therefore, each one of us, all the leaders are working towards creating such kind of solutions. And obviously, AI will be and digitization will be one of the central pillars of really driving that technology evolution and solution creation. So we've got a very strong digital banking and technology team who are working with some of the other ecosystem partners to create some real cool solutions. Having said that, coming back to specific on this voice bot as a subject, I think look, while Saurabh is really laying down the challenges, the truth is that India has got 22 Indian languages, 19,500 dialects. So it's a huge challenge. So that's at one level, ability to understand the language and the dialects. The second is ability to integrate with various other platforms uh, within the organization to be able to make a meaning out of a customer's problem and bring the solution to the fore. Third is the empathy and the sentiment analysis and understanding the customer's particular moment at that moment, the anxiety level. Fourth, the phonetics. Customer is using a loud tone. How do you understand the customer's jittery in mind and really handle that suitably. So in order to solve all of these, we are actually building some separate solution which will integrate together in the form of a voice bot come overall comprehensive contact center solution. We have already built what we call as a Saxum, which has an ability to integrate 16 to 17 different systems and bring data from each of these, which even the bot and the human being can use to deliver a immediate and instant solution to the customers. So some of these integration are really, really important. And once these are built to scale, I think these are solutions which will be something which other companies would really aspire to kind of emulate.
So I think we are getting into the end of the conversation. We just heard from Ratan also the digitization strategy for Axis Bank. I want to understand from you now, Saurabh, and we'll get into the last question, the concluding remarks then. That is your focus largely on large banks and large companies or enterprises, or how appealing it is for you to also get down to small business owners and MSMEs? Are you sort of finding this segment and demographic attractive, particularly amid the crisis? I also ask you this, that the business sentiment is perhaps not in the best spirits right now. Are the corporates drawn to AI tools, especially dealing with customer interactions? So wouldn't you want to expand this to MSMEs or small business owners? What is your view there?
Yeah. So Shrija, we are as of today working with companies across multiple verticals. Within banking, we are working with, of course, banks. We're working with security companies, insurance companies, even NBFCs. Outside banking, we're working with companies in travel domain, DTH, internet service providers, logistics, and even internet companies. So fairly horizontal with respect to our strategy of working with customers. Having said that, we are very focused on working with larger enterprises. And that is primarily because of the complexities involved in solving the call center problem. If you look at a call center, which is at the scale of Axis Bank, you're talking about a few thousand people and more than 1 lakh calls a day. That needs expertise, that needs different level of solutioning before selling. It needs different level of understanding even in the delivery aspect. And because of these reasons, we have restricted ourselves to work only with larger enterprises in the company in the country, at least for the next 2 to 3 years. At that point of time, probably the systems will be more mature and we'll look at opening them up for smaller enterprises. Having said that, to answer the second part of your question, which is what kind of sentiment we are seeing in the market, see, our solution is a cost-cutting solution, right? It is both AI, so it fits into the digital transformation piece, and it is cost-cutting. So every enterprise today, be it someone who's doing well or be it someone who's not doing well post-COVID, is very interested to work with us. We are working with banks, of course, but at the same time, we are working with airlines, which one would imagine, they would not really want to invest right now, but they are thinking this is the best time to invest in a cost-cutting uh, initiative. So we are seeing interest from all kind of enterprises, and net COVID has been a good tailwind for a business like us.
Okay, so COVID has
Yeah,
essentially, yeah.
Sija, from what we are seeing is that the digital solutions are getting a lot more traction in the SME and the MSME world. Traditionally, the and the MSMEs were more keen to do transactions through the physical mode. But I think with COVID in place, we are actually seeing a lot more companies are showing keenness to go into the digital route. We are actually powering the SMEs and MSMEs to do many more things, sitting at their offices and really our corporate internet banking, the collection and payment solutions, the new account opening, and getting more services are gaining traction through the digital route. And AI is actually playing a center stage in some of these as well, including account opening for the SMEs, the credit sanction, the loan disbursement. Today, 100% of our loan disbursement is done using bot. The salary processing, 100% is done using bot. So my belief is that as the digitization landscape gets traction in the SME and the MSME world, I think some of these solutions will be very, very important, powerful for those segments as well. And we, as a large bank, we will actually enable and create an ecosystem to help the SME sector to grow, because they are the real backbone of the.
Absolutely, they are. It's a very large segment. MSMEs constitute the backbone of the economy, just in terms of the sheer contribution to the GDP and also in terms of the services sector and the employment they offer. I think we've had a very engaging conversation today. We really deep dive into the world of AI, the opportunities, the challenges, the solution providers from likes of the vernacular AI, also from the practitioner's perspective, from the likes of Axis Bank, and we had a very 360-degree view on where we are headed in this entire conversation about AI, particularly in the COVID age. Now let's do something fun, and I would sort of flip the positions here. Suppose for 2 minutes, Ratan is in the position of Sourabh, and Sourabh is in the position of Ratan. And if each one of you have to do a pitch to each other, how would that look like? I would begin with you, Ratan. If you were the CEO or the product head of a startup, AI-First startup, what would your pitch to somebody at Axis Bank or some other bank look like? And it's a fun question, and I give you 2 minutes for that.
Mr. Saurav, I've got a product which is simple voice bot, but it has got the depth of capabilities. The solution is fairly in depth. I have an ability to understand 730 Indian dialects. It has an ability to understand the intents pretty well, the contents of the customer language. It has an ability to really understand the customer sentiment. And not just that, I don't bring in a very box solution. I offer you the ability to integrate and customize with any of the other systems that you have. More importantly, you as Axis Bank, I know that you have a philosophy of Axis Bank Dil Se Open, which is really connecting to the human persona and the connecting to the people. I assure you, the bot and human beings will operate, and I bring in that philosophy and not let that whole philosophy to get diluted. I will ensure using the bot, we will augment your philosophy of Dil Se Open, Axis Bank Dil Se Open.
Wow,
Wow, that's
that's
a good pitch.
that's exceptional. I'm going to show it to my sales team after this.
Okay, now Saurabh, it's your turn. Your response in the shoes of being from an Axis Bank or a large bank, how would you deal with the Saurabh on the other side then?
Yeah. So, Ratan, thanks for the pitch. Really appreciate the product that you've built. I understand the challenges that you as a founder go through every day to build these solutions. And I definitely want to support you. And I'm looking forward to integrating not just what we have done, but also the next solution that you are building. And I will connect you to my team and let's start talking about the next projects as soon as possible.
Okay, guys, that was fun. And I have just like some quick one word answers I need from you. I would start from you, Ratan. The biggest fad in the banking sector, the most overused word, what would that be according to you?
Um, Banks are making lots of money.
Sir, that's in the annual reports.
Okay, but last question, your most humbling experience that has been in the times of COVID, what would that really be?
No, actually, the most humbling experience would be to we actually created as a call center for employees and the extended employees and the partners. We call it as a COVID helpline. So anybody who will call up the call center to get to know what they can do when they are affected with COVID or get any support from the bank for any medication, hospitalization, etc. And when I listened to some of the calls, it was so humbling to the fact that we were there for employees, extended employees, their families, and the partners in these difficult times. And that was really, really humbling experience for me to really fulfill using this channel of call center and support these difficult times to the people.
Wow, very well shared. I come down to you now, Saurabh. The same set of question are really the biggest fad that you have heard in the larger tech slash AI machine learning space, the biggest fad word.
I think for us, it's like you need huge amount of data to solve every AI problem. I think that's a big fad in the whole ecosystem right now. You need data definitely, but only for some problems. In most of the problems, you can do with small amount of data, so you need to be very smart about it from a pure ML AI perspective.
Okay. And the most humbling experience that it has been for you in the times of COVID?
I think times of COVID, the most humbling experience has been how the team came together. You know, the decision was taken all of a sudden. I remember it was during the time of Holi. A few of our people had gone home, and then they ended up staying home for the last 6-7 months. So it was not really planned, right? But people came together. They helped each other. We've grown our team 3x during COVID. So the humbling experience is people helping each other, becoming each other's buddy, even if they are not directly impacting someone's work, but they are helping them understand the culture of the organization, how they should be, how they should, kind of gel in quickly, how they should onboard themselves quickly, and all of that. So that has been the most humbling thing. Uh,
Thanks. Thank you, Saurabh, for that. Well shared. Gentlemen, it was great to have both of you. Thank you for being so candid and thank you for sharing those very meaningful insights with us. It was a very engaging conversation. I'm sure it will be very meaningful for the Mint audiences and readers. Till the time we see you next, goodbye and good luck. And here's wishing from me and the team to you and yours a very safe Dashera and Diwali coming forward. Till the time, see you next. Goodbye and good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Divya. Thank you so much. Thanks to you.